What up YouTube, I am back, this time with another KVK video. This month, K299 is facing off against K350, and while they are the much newer kingdom, they are also the much stronger kingdom. The largest alliance there being M1B, who are about 40 billion, so I assume that not all of them were on K350, but a lot of them were, including multiple people above 1 billion, and a few just below it. So we were definitely the underdogs coming into this matchup, but by the time I woke up, we were surprisingly down 200 or 300 million points rather than the 600 million that I'm used to. The problem is that I've only got 4 or 5 hours to play this time, so it's going to be a big ask. I'd done my usual trick of starting north of the wall before KVK started, so that anyone who wasn't familiar with 299 would think they were only facing off against OWO, who are a small alliance who don't have anyone above 600 million, which tends to make people quite sloppy, and they'll end up sitting on bubbled overnight in great cities, which is really good for me. But I couldn't actually see anyone sitting on bubbled immediately, so I jumped around and scouted all of the great cities, and every single one of them was empty. With the exception of Winterfell that had a few thousand tier 3s in it. But kills are kills, and I saw that his lord was in the march, so I figured it's a good start to get my total attack buffed up. I've not even bothered equipping any buffs to myself yet, because I've not seen any targets worth a proper attack. So I attack that and grab his lord. I follow the line home, but there's only another couple hundred tier 3s there, so still not much of a start. So I go back to looking around the map, and at that point I spot a few guys from M1B sitting here next to King's Landing, but completely bubbled up. So I take a quick look around 350, don't find any targets there either, and then when I swap back to 299, one of these guys from M1B has suddenly decided to unbubble and put troops into KL. He does have counter scout up, so I'm not sure exactly what I will be facing. And as soon as he spots me nearby, he recalls the troops that were going into KL, so I decide I will jump next to him and start a rally on him, because I've learned my lesson about trying to solo castles of this size. Given that I'm only playing for a few hours today, I don't think we're going to win anyway. I don't want to waste a 100% army size buff, so I pop a 75% and start my rally. Now, given that there's only one other person who can join this rally, and it's my other account, I just leave it sitting on the sidelines until right at the last minute, so that it will stay bubbled, and in the hopes that this guy will not call in reinforcements and will try to just tank the rally himself. Unfortunately, it does not go down that way, and he does end up getting some reinforcements from a few of his guys nearby. So I drop Covya's bubble by joining the rally at the last possible second, basically just in the hopes that they're not going to try and solo him, because he is not blanked. He's got too many troops for that right now. But the rally goes through, and we do technically eke out a victory, as long as you completely ignore the value of the troops lost. So after that hit, I surprisingly decide I don't want to rally them anymore, and I will just go and put some troops in King's Landing to get some points. Unfortunately, they're not quite so pacifist as I am, so they decide they will come and rally me this time. Now, I don't know this guy's troop type, but given that I just hit him with spear, I assume that they're going to choose one of their inflayers to hit me, so I choose I will defend the rally with cav. Unfortunately, they choose to hit me spear on spear, so they slaughter my cav and they eke out a victory. Although this one was at least much closer in terms of power lost, and the troops that I lost were my cavalry, which I don't really care about. But at this point, I'm pretty sure that we are not going to win this KVK. Because while I am individually the strongest account, there is not much chance that I can beat people of this size with only me and Covya's troops to join my rallies, especially when they are actively reinforcing each other. But that doesn't mean that I don't want more points, so when this guy mysteriously shows up after I have scouted the great cities, I'm sure it's not a trap at all, and I manage to eke out another technical victory where I lose a lot more power but deal a lot more casualties. I assume the only reason he chose to run away was that I killed a significant portion of his meat shield. I then briefly get a visit from the guy who rallied me earlier, but he does not choose to attack me, unfortunately. So at this point, I jump on over to 350 because I've not actually seen anyone active there, and I will sit in King's Landing to get some points. Unfortunately, this guy shows up and chooses to start a rally on Covya. Now, he had inf marches out in great cities earlier, so I chose to assume that he might be at least partially inf, and rather than sending my spears to try and counter that, I chose I'll just send Covya north of the wall so the rally takes too long to get to him. In the end, he just cancels the rally, so I send Covya back into King's Landing and get back to earning some more passive points. But then I spot this guy's jumped over here and is alone, so I decide that I will turn the tables and rally him. and he doesn't get any reinforcements, so with that I finally get my first hit of the day that is both a technical victory and an actual victory. But I decide that one rally isn't enough, and since he seems to be willing to sit here and play ball, I'll do another. He does get reinforcements this time, but he doesn't have a lord in his prison anymore, so his stats will be worse. Unfortunately, he actually ends up with more tier 1 meat shield rather than less, so we're back to technical victories only. But at this point, he has apparently had enough, and he has gone away. And so I go back to sitting in King's Landing. And I speed Covya's troops in from far away in the hopes that they do not see where he is. Unfortunately, this is the third time I've done it from this position, and they have finally learned where he is sitting, and so they have spotted him, and they jump in to solo him. Unfortunately for you guys, I was only recording Potentially's perspective, and I was a bit too panicked dealing with the attacks to actually flick over to look at Covya. And he solos me with a little over 1,000,000 cav, and gets a pretty good victory. But I quickly have Covya speed his spears home, and I manage to get into my city and change my front line to spear before he manages to get his second attack off, so that by the time he does, he gets absolutely massacred. Unfortunately, despite the thrilling victory, I do some maths at this point. I've got about 2.5 hours left before I have to leave, and I realise that even if I put all of my troops into King's Landing, we're still going to be 100 million points behind when I leave, and I'm pretty sure that even if we were in the lead, that the rest of K299 couldn't hold it for the 8 hours or so that would be left of KVK at that point. So I decided I'm not going to risk any more troops on this. AC season is just around the corner, and I'm already below 3 million tier 4 spears on my main account, so I decided I'm just going to recall everything and bubble up. So that's all I have for you from this KVK. Unfortunately, I didn't get on yesterday to grab a screenshot of the final scores, but it was around 900 million to them and about 400 to 500 million to us. So it was a fairly close match, despite me not being here for most of it. So thank you guys for watching this one. Sorry there were much fewer hits than normal, it's just a tough opponent. I will be back next week with some Alliance Conquest footage, so I hope you're looking forward to that.